Welcome to the Future Is Freelance podcast, brought to you by Zolo, the operating system of the solo economy. Every week, we'll be serving up an audio cocktail of expert tips, inspired insights, and stories from the frontiers of freelancing to help you grow your borderless business to new heights and live life on your own terms. So kick back, grab a snack, and let's get started. Hello and welcome to Season 2 of The Future Is Freelance. Did you miss us? We weren't gone for too long, but even freelancers need a little downtime. I hope that this long hot summer is treating you well wherever you are, and that you're surviving any extreme or unusual conditions in your area. We've got some changes for the season ahead, the first of which is that we're moving now to a fortnightly schedule. This will enable us to dedicate even more time to making the most of every episode we create for you and finding really superb guests to talk to and share. After all, Season 1 did set the bar pretty high. And we're thrilled to kick off Season 2 with an interview with Imogen Cook, a serial entrepreneur originally from London like myself, but now fully location independent, with a series of businesses she's scaled in an unusual way. Imogen's serendipitous success came through learning how to outsource work to a hand-picked network of virtual assistants based in the Philippines, and her latest business, the Freedom Geek, helps others do exactly the same. Scaling in this way is a powerful idea for solopreneurs who might never want to grow and manage staff in the traditional way, but nevertheless have tasks or even whole areas they could use a little help with. Of course, there are potential pitfalls to this route, but that's where Imogen's experience can help, whether you engage the Freedom Geek services or you do it yourself. So if you've ever wondered about lightening your load or even what kind of tasks you could potentially get some help with, you'll find lots of great tips in this interview. And don't forget, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time on September the 9th. So the best way to make sure you don't miss out is to subscribe to our show or follow us depending on what app you're using. And follow me on Twitter at Maya Middlemiss, where I'll make sure to give you a heads up every time we release a new show on Future Freelance Fridays. Here's Imogen. So welcome, Imogen. It's lovely to have you with us here at The Future Is Freelance.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. Happy to be here.
Grand. Well, I'm really looking forward to talking to you about leveraging virtual assistants to create freedom in your business. But first, we love to do this with all our guests. I'd really like to explore how you've arrived at this point in your own career and your life journey. So what's your background as an entrepreneur?
Sure. Well, it's definitely been a journey, one of those up and down ones. I worked in London in corporate services for about 13 years. Right now, today, I mentioned to you just before we went live, I'm sat here in Ecuador, which still sometimes feels a little bit like a dream. I've been traveling for 4 years now, still working very hard. So it's not an all-day holiday. Please don't assume that. Before that, I was in the city, working in London for about 13 years, corporate services, financial services more specifically. And it was something that I didn't enjoy. I was really starting to feel like I was, losing the will to live and struggling to move forward and just being like, how am I going to do this for the rest of my life? Like, I just don't feel alive completely, and having that, Monday morning dread and a lot of things that some people go through. And some of us need to hit the pain point before we make big change, which happened to me for sure. And then the Freedom Geek itself, I've been running for 5 years. So it predates me traveling. I've been an entrepreneur, like if you want to say running businesses in one form or another for about a bit over, I think about 8 years now. So this is business number 3. The other businesses that I've run haven't all been successful. One was definitely not successful financially, although it taught me a lot. The second one was kind of okay, but I didn't really have a lot of passion for it. And now I'm doing this particular business of helping other entrepreneurs work with Filipinos. And So it's been quite a long time. I've done it both part-time outside of work, which is how a lot of people start, the side hustle, the thing that they hope might take over and give them a chance to leave that job that they might be unhappy in. And that's how I started. And I think the funny thing about this business that I run right now is that it found me rather than me finding it. So I was trying to do something very different with my life, actually. I had gone to one of these property investing, real estate investing introduction weekends. There are a few different training providers. People might have seen them kind of advertising that they do this sort of thing. And you go along and they start teaching you about investing. And a friend of mine had asked me to go to this weekend with her. And at that particular point in time, I was feeling a bit lost. And because I was at that point, I really had a rule for myself that I had to say yes to things. If people asked me, I really had to have a say yes attitude and not make assumptions about what it would be or how I would, feel about it once I was there, but just say yes to a lot of different things, which is a great thing, I think, to do if you are feeling a little lost.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't know if this is for me. I'm not that interested in this kind of thing. But when I went along to that particular weekend, they showed me the potential of investing in property as a business. I had already been a landlord, and I'd actually had quite a lot of problems with the property I owned, which is why I had a bit of a negative mindset around it. And when I saw the way that they presented it and I understood the mistakes that I had been making, which were very obvious by the end of the weekend, I got really excited about that. I started to do it. I went in it with not much time because I was working full time and not a lot of money either, which is the worst position you could possibly be in. So I had to get very resourceful. And one of the things that I did to get very resourceful was I online, virtually, I looked in the Philippines for local people there to help me with that particular business. And I had to refine that process. I didn't get it right immediately, but once I did start to get it right, I got it really right. And I got this incredible people coming through the Philippines. And I trained them on the things that I knew that I was doing so they could start doing the tasks for me when I was at work. And I could just, stretch that time that I didn't really have much further. And when I started doing that, and it's really started working, other people in that particular community, they were the first community that I worked with. I work with a lot of different entrepreneurial communities now, freelancing communities like yours. And people started coming to me and saying, how did you do that? They were like, how did you find these people? How are you working together? How much are you paying them? What do they even do for you? What is this that you've done? So I explained it. And as I started answering people's questions, they got excited. And what I thought would happen is they would take that knowledge and they'd go and do it for themselves. But what actually happened was people said, I want you to do it for me because you clearly know how to do it and I'll pay you. So I did that actually a little reluctantly at first. I was like, did I come this far to be someone else's recruitment agency? I don't know how I feel about that. But I started anyway. And the first person that asked me to do it, it went really well. He'd actually tried previously to do it directly himself and hadn't been able to figure it out, even though he's a very smart guy.
Right.
And then within a week, I had the second person coming to me and it just kind of snowballed from there. And even today, we don't really promote ourselves that much. I actually do quite a few, podcasts, business talks. I really enjoy it. You saw me on stage in Bansko and I love that side of things. And that's probably the first big step I've taken to promoting the business in any way. Otherwise, organically out of word of mouth, right from those first couple of people within a week, it doubled from year 1 to year 2 and it doubled again from year 3 and we continued to grow. And it was a business that kind of people just kept coming and asking me to do it for them. And I was like, okay, but I had the job, I had the other business at the time. It was a lot that was going on in my life. But the thing that got my attention and the reason why I do actually love what I'm doing now is that I also started to get a lot of thank you messages from people saying, thank you, you've made my life easier. I get a bit more sleep, stuff. I don't have to do everything anymore because a lot of people have got trapped in that thing, even though they're working for themselves and they think that they sort of set themselves free. And then ironically, we get consumed back into the new thing that we've created and it becomes, a little bit of a hamster wheel again, if we're not careful. And then simultaneously, we were creating work from home careers in the Philippines as well at the same time. So it became something that was really rewarding, and I realized I could make a difference. I could innovate in the way that we did it. I mean, there are agencies placing virtual assistants. That's been around for a long time, but the way that we do it is quite unique. It's very kind of customer focused. It's very kind of entrepreneurial attitude focused. I think we're very fair. We give a lot of good information. I'm very transparent about everything that I've learned working with Filipino people day in, day out for, well over 5 years now, because I was doing this before it was even formed as a business. And it's been fantastic. And then one day I decided that work was just a bit too painful. And that was in March 2018. I handed in my notice, and I bought a one-way ticket to Cape Town. And I decided I am going to travel and I am going to work and I am going to do whatever it takes to make this work for me. And I wasn't sure if it was going to work out. And 4 years later, it's still going, it's still growing. So it was 100% the right decision. And that's, in a nutshell, what happened.
That's a lovely story. Congratulations, first of all, on creating a successful business, but also escaping from that London city. There's quite a few of us London refugees.
Yes.
Now doing something more interesting and creative and fulfilling. And it always makes me cheer whenever I hear of another escapee. Especially people who are going down and throwing back the rope for other people to help them get out of that and realize what they want to do with their lives. I also really liked in your story the role of intuition and being open to opportunities, that on 2 occasions you weren't 100% sure about something because you knew that you couldn't see all the possibilities it might offer you. But you just thought, okay, hang on a minute, I'm not accountable to a manager or shareholders or anybody else here. I'm just going to go with this and see where it takes me, whether it's to that property fair or to starting to find this whole new service offering of helping people find the right VAs to support their business. So what does your business and your team and your day-to-day work look like now then, 4 years on from that launch in 2018?
Yes, I know it's funny because I think with that last... with the last commentary that when I was talking, sometimes I said I and sometimes I said we. So it was just me in the beginning. Today we are 11, I believe. It's me and 10 freelancers from the Philippines. I say freelancers, I mean, a couple of them I've been working. One of them has been over 5 years. No, 2 of them must be over 5 years now. So that doesn't mean that it's short term. They've been very much working, for me, with me quite intensively the whole time. We are a team. I couldn't function without them. They are phenomenal. I'm very proud of them. I'm just proud of everything, the intelligence, the creativity, the heart that they put in, how much fun they can be, everything. So that's kind of what we look like today. I'm pretty much pulled out of operations. It was one of the first things that I outsourced, the day-to-day operations. So when, customers come and they work with us to try and find their virtual assistants and the kind of the candidate selection, the interviews that we set up and handhold people through, a lot of the advice that we give them, that's not me. That's my team. And I sit on a higher tier, I suppose. I've also outsourced sales. I outsourced sales about 2 years ago. In the good old days, they weren't that good for me. I was in Mexico City. I love Latin America. I spent quite a lot of time here. But I was getting up before 5 a.m. to make my first calls to Europe because I was doing most of my business with Europe and the UK. 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. in the morning. And I was doing that 5-6 hours, often back to back, talking to people. And then I think I overestimated my energy because some part of me thought, I can do that. And then I can just like hammer on through for another few hours and get all like the administration stuff done. And that's not like a sales call is like, if you want to put in lots of energy and really engage people and you do that for 6 hours, you're pretty, exhausted afterwards, really. So that was a bit unrealistic.
6 hours
for a while, I just thought, it has to be me. I'm the entrepreneur. I'm the person that my clients relate to. And then at the same time, I realized I was like, but you're being a little bit hypocritical because I tell people, don't limit yourself in like what you can outsource. Don't assume that you're the genius. Don't assume that no one else could possibly be as amazing as you. Like it's just, it's like a get over yourself and let go of control kind of moment. And with that in mind, I said, right, I'm going to start to look for someone to take over sales. And even if they're like 80% as good as me, I'm going to have to live with it. And bearing in mind that my energy was being pulled in different directions, I was like, if their energy is just focused on sales, they might be really, really great. So I did find someone from the Philippines who was absolutely phenomenal at sales. She's still doing the sales. That's all she does. We made it commission incentivized for, results as well. That's been absolutely fine. People love talking to her. They're always telling me how much they love talking to her. So sales was then kind of off me, which was great. So I got out of operations. I got out of sales. Marketing, we're not doing very much marketing right now, to be honest, but we will do because people still come to us. It's still been this lovely influx of people, but I am ambitious and we will do both outreach and incoming. But at the moment, the organic growth has been quite aggressive just with incoming referrals, which has been good. But we're systemizing my back end, which will allow us to ramp up and take more and more capacity. So it's like one step at a time with that. Financials is my right-hand woman on my team. She does a lot of the people management. She helps with the financial reconciliations as well. It's a bit of a mixed role. She does project work too. She's one of these people, though. She's just so capable that there isn't much I don't feel that I can give her to do. There's some back office roles kind of within the operations, which is, filtering our candidates, making sure those systems are running, checking everything. We've got very, very high filters in place. So about 90% of the people that apply to us don't make it through and about 10% do. And we give lots of advice to candidates on how to apply, how to make sure they've got a good application. So we do support them as well. But at the same time, when you've got your own business or your own freelancing services, your standards are high. That's one reason people are scared to outsource. They're like, this person's not going to be as good as me. So we want to take the top candidates to support people because we know that that's a concern and that's something that they want. And that's a reason why they keep coming back to us as well. And then what else is there in the business? I will hire a PA at some point. I haven't done it yet, but I do think I need one to support kind of me and my right-hand woman that I mentioned, Rachel. And then, to be honest, my role today is kind of high-level coordination, everything that's going on, keeping the business in balance across, the different areas, look at what's happening. Lots of what I call Kaizen incentives, this continuous improvement concept of looking at what we do, doing it better, and just figuring out how to grow us, how to move us forward, what services and products do my customers need us to do next, and just, defining those, creating those, working on those. And that's where I focus most of my time. And that's where I should be focusing most of my time as a founder. And, the more I move towards it, the better it is.
Yeah. So really all of the operational stuff has now been devolved to your team and you can focus on these really strategic decision-making development activities that are moving your business forward. That's amazing. Who are your typical clients then? Who are you finding these amazing people for?
Yeah, we still have a big following from the UK real estate community. There may be about 50% of my client base.
Right.
They really, they were the ones that came to me and asked me to do it in the beginning. The thing with that particular kind of business is that it's very time consuming to set up some kind of investment that you want to do something with, whether it's, development that you want to buy and then develop and then sell. And that will be an intense, amount of project work, or you want to setting up something to rent out to someone else. If you bought like a low cost smelly house and made it nicer, and there was a bit of an intense project involved there. And if some of these guys do 10, 15 of these simultaneously, like it's insane. And of course they need a lot of support for that. And then outside of that, it's been really interesting. I'm torn on this as well because, one of the really powerful things I could do would just be to niche on one type of entrepreneur and provide like a sort of end-to-end everything they need solution. And I still might do that, but I'm not going to stop working with different types of entrepreneurs because that's really lit me up and taught me a lot. So it's been the real estate people, and I should mention more and more people are coming to us from the US and Canada now. So at the moment they're forming about 20% of the client base. I don't know through that's natural organic word of mouth, and there's a big demand in that market. I've never really pushed that market, or maybe it's because I've been spending time in Mexico and I've been meeting a lot of US entrepreneurs on the ground. Maybe.
Yeah, or it's just a big market, I guess. We get a lot of listeners from the US. We've never really marketed in the US for the podcast, but it's just where people are, or maybe exploring new ways of working and getting things done.
Yeah. And US entrepreneurs, I think, are really entrepreneurial. They're not deterred that you're in the UK. They're just like, whatever, let's just go, so they can be great for that. Different parts of Europe, we've had someone from Israel, we've had someone from Germany, we've had a couple of Australia. I'd like to go after the Australian market at some point, but that's like not for right now, because the time zone with the Philippines is kind of easy to work, whereas when they come from the US, the Filipinos are pulling an overnight shift, and yes, we can do it, but I'm really interested in work-life balance, so I'd love a big Australian market as well. That'd be attractive. Types of businesses: real estate, digital marketing, all kinds of things, coaches and influencers. I'd say we had some really quirky ones. We had a tarot reading business. We had someone specialized in kind of like women emotionally recovering from divorce. That was really interesting as well, because divorce doesn't even exist in the Philippines. They're not allowed to get divorced. So when we went asking candidates to go forward, they were like, they have a real stigma about it. They're like, we don't want to be involved with anything with like the D word. And but we got there in the end. The same with tarot. That was perceived as witchcraft, and we were struggling to get candidates, but there was someone who came through in the end. We have to explain to clients, actually, there's a different perception of this in this culture, and it can be challenging for that. We've worked with fitness coaches. There were some toy companies. There was this amazing guy who goes to people's houses and sets up like train sets so trains can run like all over their house. And I don't know, the insane kind of businesses that were taking off. And there's one reason I loved it, because I learn a lot just from, and these businesses that come to us, they are established and growing. That tends to be the trend. So we don't get someone who's like, I'm thinking about starting a business. Maybe I need a VA. People are not doing that. Maybe they should, because they would accelerate faster, but they're not. So the people that come to us, what's usually happened is they started a business, it's growing, and now they're in pain because there aren't enough hours in the day, and they're excited about the business they consumed because they've seen a little bit of success with it and, forward movement, and they need to hit the next stage. And they usually pick up the phone to us because they are in that pain, and they're like, you might be able to help. Tell me more. I'm scared of letting go of control, but let's at least have the conversation. And then that's where it tends to start.
Yeah. Interesting. So, I mean, a lot of the listeners to this show are going to be freelancers or solopreneurs. They might be on that cusp of wondering what the next stage is. And so they're thinking about, do I scale and grow in a typical way and hire somebody local to sort of do the operations or outsource specific things? What kind of things could a Filipino virtual assistant help a freelancer with?
Yeah. And just sort of to your point, actually, sometimes it's the right thing to hire someone local, sometimes. And I think part of that is it a niche area of expertise that you cannot do yourself? Because, and can you afford them? Because if you can afford it, if that person's an expert in a specific thing, say you just have no idea how to do SEO, and there's an SEO consultant who's really good, you've heard about them, they've helped other people, they've got solid credentials, maybe you've seen them online talking and you think they're credible. That's probably much better than coming to me and saying, find me an SEO person from the Philippines. To be honest, if you can afford it, just crack on and do it. That's going to be a better solution for you. Yeah. However, if you are in pain because there aren't enough hours in the day, and I think that's the point. It doesn't really matter if you're an entrepreneur, a freelancer, whatever it is, but if you're starting to hit that pain and you're like, I have a lot of business coming in, I have high standards for my clients and I can't keep up and I'm starting to get exhausted and I don't see this ending in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. If you kind of know that deep down, you're starting to feel like this isn't sustainable and I'm getting into trouble, because burnout is the end for us all if we're not careful. Then you need to look at what you're doing all day, and you need to identify if there are some things, even if it's your area of expertise, that's not necessarily a problem. But if you got someone and they were a smart, switched on person who learns quite quickly, and you could teach them, one of the skills, one of the things that you're doing in the business, and it will give you an hour back of your time in your day, which might be hours, or maybe it's, 8 hours or 14 hours or 3 or 4 hours outside your job, whatever it is. But 1 hour back for a lot of us people who are working for ourselves is a big deal. Whether you just need it to sleep, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And that's a good place to start. So when people are like, what's a virtual assistant? What can they do? I say, I just consider them as smart people, really. The question that I hear you asking me is, what can a smart person do? And I'm like, it depends a bit. It depends on their experience. It depends on their skill set, sure. But let's say that they're switched on, they're intelligent, they are very affordable for you. And, you could teach them, and you're like, it will take me time. And I'm like, yeah, but if I challenge you that it will take you 2 hours to teach one day, let's say, to teach this VA, and you record it all so they can reference it back. And then for the rest of the week, they give you an hour back of your time, then you're already, 4 hours up in week one, let alone in a year. And when that expands out in the first month in a year. And that was just the first set of tasks. And you can start part-time and scale up. That's no problem. People get blocked. They're like, I can't keep them busy all day, every day, day one. I'm like, well, don't start like that. Just say, okay, it's going to be, about 2 hours a day to start off with. And then we're going to ramp it up to 4 hours a day, and then 6 hours a day, and then 8 hours a day. And then you're going to need a second VA, and you're going to realize how hard you were working because it's got to that point, already with the two of you. And I think that that's something that people should think about. And it's the first place to start is protect your day. What are you doing all day? What are the low risks, relatively straightforward tasks that you could start to hands off and have some self-awareness around that? Because I know with me, and I know with a lot of people, it was true that previously I was working in chaos. I'm much better now at gauging my day. I'm still not at the level that I want to be, but I'm much better. People might, if you're in that state and someone said to you, what are you doing all day? How many hours are you spending on different tasks, and how many hours are you spending on financials or promotion or networking or coaching or your actual services or sales? And then, what are those high value or low value? Not meaning that they don't need to be done, meaning that if they're high value, they drive the business forward. If they're low value, they might still need to be done, but they don't drive the business forward. All the things that the team are doing for me day to day in operations, they need to be done, but they don't particularly grow the business. That's my job. That's why I stepped out of that, because I want to grow the business. And some awareness of that is a great place to start. Keep it simple. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't go, I don't have perfect processes and systems. The truth is, if you're running a business, no matter what you're doing, no matter if you think it's not very sophisticated or tech savvy, it is a process. It may be like a dumb process with 10 steps to it, but it's still a process. So just get someone else to run that process for you. You can get better later. And then also, so many people ask this, that I did very specifically for marketing. And I wanted to say this first because it's so important. I don't want people to get lost in even the thing that I've created, but I did create something that, you can distribute to your audience, which is called 500 tasks you can delegate to a virtual assistant, because people kept asking me, what can they do? What can they do? And I'm like, they could do anything within your business. If you have the expertise to teach them, they could probably take over everything you're doing today. Yes, you might need to look for a certain person. If you're closing sales over the phone like I was, I need to look for someone who's got those skills. If you're doing back office for repeat tasks and they never really need to face a customer, get someone else who enjoys that, because there are, and I found it difficult to believe, but people enjoy things that I consider very boring. They love it. They want to stay in that comfort over and over again, road that's comfortable for them. And I have people like that in my team, thank God, because if they're all like me, it would be the nut house, I tell you. And those things are really important. So the 500 tasks list was to give people a bit of inspiration and make them think about it. But by the way, the reason I thought of 500 tasks is I was like, what do we do in operations? What would we do in marketing? What do we do in social media? What do we do in sales? And let me break everything down into subtasks underneath them. And that's how we hit 500, because there are potentially 500 things going on in a business. And if you're trying to do all of them and you're starting to feel awful,
we wonder why we burn out.
Yeah, you're trying to do 12 jobs at once. It's no wonder you're feeling like, excuse my French, but it's just, we're so hard on ourselves about it, and it's unrealistic, and it's dangerous for the business to think like that. It really is.
Yeah, definitely. So freelancers probably need this more than anybody, then it certainly sounds like it. It also sounds like anybody listening who's not sure where to start should go back to listen to, in season 1, we had an episode with Saskia Mardi, the business minimalist. Get to know your processes, figure out what bits you need to keep, which bits you might be able to get some help on, and then look at Imogen's list of 500 tasks, see where the overlap is, and those are the things you can start outsourcing and getting back some of your time. As you say, even an hour to sleep might be the most precious resource that an entrepreneur can gift themselves in this process.
Yeah.
I mean, it all sounds amazing, Imogen, but are there any risks or downsides that people should be aware of if they're thinking, yes, I need this?
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you say? Well, hang on.
Yeah, just one more thing you said about that lady, and they should go back. But even if they did that exercise before, if it's like a year later, their day might have changed. So look at your day again. Because my day today was not like my day 1 year ago or 2 years ago or 5 years ago. It's completely transformed, and it should be completely transformed a year from now. And it's a continuous thing. I need to hit that day and say, if I truly remove myself from my business, truly, or, have like literally 4 hours checking things, the 4-hour work week dream that people have, whatever it is, then that business is very strong without me. It doesn't really matter what happens to me, and, if you ever wanted to sell it, people are like, no, but you don't know how you're going to feel in 10, 15 years time. And that's what you need to create. You need to create something where you're not in the middle of it. And that's the only way to do it, really, truly. And then you can start another business if you really want to work that much, or you want to take a year off, but just, whatever it is that you want. Risks. Yes. There are risks, and that's why people are terrified of letting go of control. It's so interesting when people bring up this conversation. It's not necessarily a Filipino thing. I think people are like, oh, they're overseas. This is even more scary. And there's a couple of things to think about around that. But this is giving your business to anyone else, no matter where they are, is going to terrify you. Like if you've got a natural control freak instinct, which a lot of us have, including me. And
we're all control freaks, us entrepreneurs, aren't we? Yeah,
100%. And we're all a bit like in our own ego, like no one else can possibly do this, or no one else is passionate. It might be true that they're not as passionate, but if you truly want to succeed, you have to move forward. Like unless you just have to. And good people are usually an integral part of that. If you somehow have got a business model which is all systems run with no people needed, fair play to you. Those things are incredible. But for most of us, that's not the case. I think the biggest risk is really hiring the wrong person, no matter where you hire them from. And it's the risk that does happen a lot. People get exhausted, disillusioned, angry, with that. And it happens with us as well, by the way. We usually get it right, but this is a people business. Yeah. So we guarantee, we do as much as we can. We say, come to us for a replacement. We check in. How's it going? I'm putting together some sort of information product support at the moment to teach people how to be more aware of how to assess a VA in a fair way and make the decision about whether they're the right VA once they start working together, because it's a different point in time to sort of choose and selection, etc. And it's why we filter people so carefully. And honestly, I've done every single filter I could think of, including personality profiling, criminal checks from the Philippines. We go on the social media and make sure they're not, doing anything really insane on their pages, including things like bad mouthing their previous bosses. If we see that, we're like, well, you might bad mouth our client. I don't want that sort of thing. So we really look for everything. I'm not saying
so you do risk it a lot.
Yeah, I'm not saying people can't have a good time, but I just want to look for something that's really alarming. And so we do English tests, aptitude tests. We ask them to submit a little video, and that says something about their people skills and their internet connection, even because if they can't even film a video, we ask them to do a speed test for us, the computer specs. We do so many checks. So that helps because we are blocking out 80-90% of the people that there might be a problem with that are wasting time for one reason or another, even if it's like they're not putting enough effort into their application, because you want the person that's dedicated, serious, committed, is going to turn up, is going to work hard, has got that attitude. So at least, yes, our application is a little bit of like a gauntlet, but at the same time, it's not hard. Just put the effort, put the energy in, and come in with that attitude and that proactiveness that we really want for ourselves, for our clients, etc. So you've got to filter in some way. It doesn't really matter if you come to me or anyone else, you've got to do some kind of filtering. You've absolutely got to do it. And that helps you with not hiring the wrong person. And if you do hire the wrong person, you need to make the decision to separate relatively quickly and get on and find the next person. It's about business. It's not a personal thing, and you just need to get on with it. So I think that is a risk that is common everywhere, and that's something that people are truly scared of. Sometimes they bring up things like scamming. Oh, what if I get scammed? I would say a couple of things. I'd say that's actually fairly rare that people from the Philippines are looking to scam you. There were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of placements we've done, probably a couple of thousand by now. I think that it's so rare. There's been a couple of slightly alarming things, and we spotted it quickly and released people. But scamming's not going to be your biggest problem. Your biggest problem is going to be, unfortunately, and just think about any workplace that you've been in and the workforce around you. The problems tend to be laziness, incompetence, lack of professionalism. Those tend to be the problems, much more than someone kind of targets.
It's the risk in hiring anybody anywhere, isn't it? To filter for that is really hard when people are in job hunting mode.
Yes, those are the things that you've got to look out for.
You don't necessarily see it.
Yeah. And then I think it's not just the filtering, but also when you start working together, don't give them, really high risk, the most important clients. Don't give them that stuff. Give them some little thing where it doesn't matter, except that it will, annoy you, but it really doesn't matter to the business if they stuff it up. It doesn't matter. And just start with the low risk things. Make sure when the right person will nail it. And your communication you need to stay in very good communication with them. That's another thing. Very good communication and just monitoring the tasks. Make sure you give them great instructions, quality control. And then when you see them nail it, you'll start to relax. And when you see them nail it again, you relax even more and you relax even more. And it will get to the point where you will never take that thing back because you've given it to someone. They're great at it. If you want resiliency built in, maybe a couple of people, maybe if that's something you can afford to do. But yeah, that's the biggest thing. And then you do have to be a bit careful with data. So when you go outside of the UK, Europe, the US to a region which doesn't have the same standards of data security, you need to start looking at things like password protections. There are password protection guards, that you can get so that Filipino people could log on to your systems, but they won't know the password. So if it did get to a point where you needed to lock them out, and again, not just Filipino, anyone who works with, you can lock them out really quickly and they never knew your password in the first place.
Yeah, you should have that kind of levels of access with anybody you collaborate with, shouldn't you?
That would be the ideal.
Off your admin passwords. And,
the more security you have, again, I've created another document that's a bit more for the clients that we work with rather than a free giveaway, but it's called 100 Security Tips. And it goes through all these different things. We release talks sometimes about IT security, about data protection. We work with the UK legal partner who is really hot on this. And even if you're not in the UK, because the UK uphold the highest standards and you really want to aim for the highest standards, no matter where you are, no matter how you're working, and, just keep moving towards them step by step. And, I don't want to get overcomplicated. It's a mixture of IT, having the right contracts, etc. But we can help and point you in the right direction with all of those things. And then, you need it anyway to work with anybody. You really do. And it doesn't have to be, it sounds a bit scary, but it's just bite-sized, move forward, start low risk, take it from there.
Brilliant. Well, it sounds like in 4 years, you've met every possible variable, scenario, disaster or challenge, and you've figured it out, basically. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's systematizing, coming up with a solution so you've got it there ready for your clients. I think this has been a really interesting conversation, not just from the freelancing point of view, but the whole future of work and the way that we can think about our businesses and our teams differently now. And I think this will give people a lot to consider. We're going to put the links to your free content guide into the show notes. What other places could people keep up with what you're doing? Is there any other places that if they're out and about now and they just want to jump straight on and follow you or connect with you, what's the best place to do that?
Yeah, so with the website's thefreedomgeek.com. I'm The Freedom Geek on Facebook, the Freedom Geek _Rebellion on Instagram. Those are the main platforms where we post. We've got a big presence on LinkedIn. Either look for the Freedom Geek or look for me, Imogen Cook. On the Freedom Geek website, we post all of our podcasts. We'll post yours as well. There's about a dozen on there. It's been great. We've got a lot of client testimonials. So, there's probably, again, about a dozen interviews. If you want to see videos of one of my lovely Filipino people interviewing our clients, then you can see that. I've also outsourced that. And, just get a bit more of the feel for it, the individual business journeys people have gone on to. I think one of the most valuable things for people that are thinking about it and preparing for it is the document you mentioned, which is, you can get it from the Freedom Geek website, but you can also get it from this other website, which is 500tasks.com, which I'll post in the show notes, literally the number 500tasks.com. That people download that. Like, we have so many downloads. It's great. So that's a great place to start in terms of reaching out to us or just getting more information. We don't hassle
Fabulous.
People with aggressive sales. It's not really my style.
No, you let people filter themselves and come to you.
Yeah, a lot of people, they recognize how hard we work. I mean, to be honest, and I am very serious about delivering. And like I said, we're not perfect, partly because it's a people business and I can filter someone all day long, but we're still going to get a few surprises in there, But what we do is guarantee our services, work with people, share our knowledge, and just look to keep getting better and better. That's what I'm very determined to do. And I don't really know any other agencies, to be honest, in this particular niche, Filipino VAs for entrepreneurs and freelancers who offer as much as we do. And I'm determined to keep it that way as well. So
fantastic. Well, that's been really interesting. Imogen, thank you so much for joining us on The Future is Freelance. It's been great to have you with us. And I think you're going to give our audience lots to think about.
I hope so. Thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to the Future is Freelance podcast, brought to you by Zolo.io, who offer compliance, taxation, invoicing, and admin solutions for fiercely independent solopreneurs across the globe. From simply getting paid to launching a full EU-based limited company, Zolo has you covered, thanks to Estonian e-residency and a superb suite of streamlined business software. If you enjoyed the show, please like, rate, and comment, and subscribe to our feed wherever you get your podcasts.